Hello and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Nick Campbell. Hiya, Nick.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome.
So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, what is the Business Spotlight? So, the Business Spotlight's been created for us to interview local business owners to find out about some of their trials and challenges that they've experienced in their business. And if you're thinking about getting into business, or if you're already on that entrepreneurship journey, then you're in the right place. So, Nick, if you could just kick things off for us, please, by just letting our audience know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for.
All right. So, as you said, I'm Nick Campbell. I'm Managing Director of Driver Provider UK, which is a recruitment business supplying into the transport sector. I've worked within the sector for the last 20 years, but we launched Driver Provider UK in April of 2021.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. So, well, that's going to open up a load of questions from me now then. So I guess first and foremost is, what would you say, Nick, is the main thing that makes you stand out from anybody else out there doing something similar?
That's a difficult question because obviously everybody thinks that they've got a unique selling point, and generally most people are doing the same thing. I think what we tend to do is try and be as honest as possible. I know within recruitment, generally everybody wants all the marbles. If you're turning down work or unable to cover work, then you're worried about somebody else that is covering it, and how that makes you look. Whereas we'd prefer to turn down work if we can't do it, simply because we want customers coming back to us knowing that we were honest the first time. I've been around businesses where no matter what the question is, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, exactly. What if you're saying yes to everything, what are you having to say no to, right?
Exactly. And you can't, it's impossible to do everything for everybody at all times well. So what we tend to do is focus on what we know we can do and what we can do well. And if there's any doubt, we'll turn it down.
I think that's a great philosophy, focusing on what you can do and doing it well. Yeah, I think that's a really great philosophy, Nick. Thanks for that share. That's really cool. So, what's the business journey been like so far then? I mean, if you could just take us back to when you originally set the business up and then just give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour and bring us up to date of where we are now.
Sure. So, as I said, this particular business we set up on April the 1st, 2021. And the irony, the date wasn't lost on us. We knew we were setting up in a very competitive market, and we knew that there'd be businesses around us that thought, oh well, here's another fly by night. It's a joke. Well, we have proved a lot of the doubters wrong already. By still being here. I mean, we started, it was a bit, the journey was it was a bit of a difficult time because we'd just come out of COVID.
Yeah.
We were dealing with IR35 and Brexit.
Yeah.
So there'd been a lot of changes in the market, and a lot of people tried to advise me, why don't you wait for a while? It's probably not the best time to be setting up a new business. But I'm pretty strong. I'm pretty strong-willed, and I decided that this was going to work, and it was going to work at the time we were going to make it work.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that was, like you say, in a very challenging time to set it up back then. And I love the fact that you've got that sense of humor as well, which hasn't been lost, to set the business up on the 1st of April. So, I mean, that's a little over 3 years ago now. So what's happened in that 3-year journey, Nick?
Well, again, there wasn't a lot of expectation put on us. So when we made a pretty decent net profit in our first year, our shareholders, I wouldn't say they were ever doubters, but they probably thought I was a little bit optimistic in my business plans and my forecasts. But then when we turned a net profit in our first year, I think it shocked everybody.
And it's obviously gone on into bigger things in year 2 and 3, yeah?
Well, year 2, I set myself up because year 2 was a bit more difficult. Although we were still in a healthy position, I think the expectation was, oh well, we've done so well in year 1, we can't wait to see what happens in year 2. And there was a bit of a slowdown. We were still, as I said, we were still in a healthy position, but yeah, the expectations had been raised in year 1, so that it was almost disappointment in year 2 when we didn't meet the same we didn't meet the same mark as we did in year 1.
Okay.
But having said that, we were still running a profitable business, and that just made me more determined for year 3.
So now you got me sitting on the edge of my seat, Nick. What happened in year 3?
Well, we're still not at the end of year 3 yet, but business has doubled.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, we increased our staff. I mean, I started out with 3 staff. We're now up to 6, and in the early in the new year, I'll be taking on another 2 staff. 2025, we anticipate opening another 2 offices. One in the north, we're looking at Leeds at the moment, and another in the south, quite possibly Ashford.
Wow, what an amazing bright future that you've got coming up there then.
Well, I mean, I've got some really good staff, and I'm sure you'll probably ask me more questions about that, but I just set out the blueprint, and it's my staff what helping us achieve these milestones and get to where we are at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as a business owner, you sort of look after the staff, and the staff look after the business, and then the business in turn looks after you guys. It's like, you know, the business owners. So, I mean, you know, yeah, absolutely. Teamwork's key. And I mean, you know, to have the right team around you is fundamentally one of the key elements of business success.
Yeah.
So what's the secret? What's the trick behind having an amazing staff?
The trick is not to divert my attention from what I do best. So when I first opened a recruitment business in 2005, and literally had no clue what I was doing. I'd seen it done and thought I can replicate that, but I hadn't been to university. I'd never taken a class in business studies. So although being a salesman came pretty naturally, running a business didn't. So in, I think, my second year, I think it was about £500,000 worth of unpaid invoices, because when my clients were giving me PO numbers, I didn't know that I was supposed to attach the PO numbers to the invoice. So yeah, we then had to close that business down while we unpicked the invoices and find out what PO went with what invoice.
Wow. So that was one of the big lessons from your point of view back in, what, 2005? So
yeah, it was a
you realised then that you needed to get a decent team around you?
Well, what I've done is, as I said, I focus on what I do well, and what I don't, or what I'm unsure of, I outsource. So all of my back office, my payroll, my credit control, all invoicing is dealt with by a dedicated team based in Poland. So we only focus on the recruitment business. I hand everything to do with my finances over to my back office.
Fantastic. And it sounds like you've got a great supporting network team there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the business wouldn't be where it is if I didn't have that back office support.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations to you, and more importantly, congratulations to the team then. It sounds like you're really grateful there as well for them, Nick. So that's always good to hear. So, I mean, going forward, you've mentioned that you're looking to sort of grow, get 2 new offices, a couple of new staff members. So going into the future then, and more importantly, going into 2025, because we're nearly there, what do you think is going to be the main challenges for you going forward?
Um, I think it's probably got to be remembering not to spread myself too thin. Um, opening new offices. I mean, our office here in Waltham Abbey can pretty much run without me. Um, Having said that, I am pretty hands-on without trying to micromanage a team. I think it's always difficult for your staff when the managing director is sitting in the room with you. But I've tried to give them the faith that I'm like, this is on you. If you've got a problem, obviously come to me with it. But I trust you, so I'm not sitting here monitoring what you're doing. And I'm pretty sure that there's a more relaxed attitude in the office when I'm not there. But but I creating an atmosphere where there's tension or fear is the complete opposite to what I want to do. It's I'm part of the team, so and we are a team. So I don't want my staff feeling intimidated because I'm the managing directors in the office. To answer your question, yeah, opening 2 new offices, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time in Yorkshire and a lot of time in Kent.
Yeah.
And it's just managing that time effectively and making sure that that all of the staff are getting what they need.
Absolutely. Well, the key thing there is I think that you've realised that not only are you able to step away from the office that you've got now, but knowing that you can't spread yourself too thin. So it sounds like you're going to have some fun being able to split yourself between Yorkshire and Kent. But
Yeah,
I'm sure that everybody will be keen to find out more. So we'll have to have again another chat this time next year to see how that's all
sure.
gone. And sort of keeping the focus on yourself then, Nick, what would you say, you know, over the last few years of running the business, would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Um, I'm continually learning lessons. So um, recently, my 19-year-old son has been on a break from uni and he's coming to work in the office. And I realized that um, he's got a voice and it's worth listening to. I think sometimes you can get carried away with thinking that because you've done the same job for 20 years, you know everything, and there's not much you can learn from somebody who's been doing it for 5 minutes, which is I've learned that that's not the case. My son has come up with plenty of amazing ideas, many of which we've implemented, or we've certainly discussed at length to find out whether there's any flaws in his ideas, and if not, why don't we give them a try? So I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that, and with your own children, sometimes you can be a bit dismissive, I suppose. They're supposed to learn from you, not you from them. But I've learned that he's an intelligent kid, and it's absolutely worth hearing him out. And that goes for all of the staff that work in my office. They've all got something important to say, and it's worth paying attention. I just know from experience. I've been into companies as an employee and offered opinion and not been heard, because sometimes tunnel vision means that you tend to just stay focused on what you already know. But listening is very important. It is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
I think that's an absolutely fantastic share, Nick. And it's nice to hear, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners and viewers, in as much as not only listening to your staff, but I mean, you've mentioned that your son's taken a break from uni, and albeit, at the tender age of 19, the advice that he's able to sort of give you, and sort of the knowledge that he has. And it's key, you're right. I mean, I've heard many people say in the past that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And, that listening skill, it is a skill. So it sounds like you've really mastered that. And it leads me on quite nicely to my next question, which was going to be, or is going to be, if we were able to travel back in time, Nick, if only we could, and you was able to go back and speak to an 18-year-old Nick, and you'd have the knowledge that you've got now, and you were able to just give a piece of advice or one golden nugget to an 18-year-old Nick, what would it be?
Again, it's hard to narrow it down to one piece of advice, but I think because of the way I came into business, and as I said, I haven't been to uni or studied business. I suffered from a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I had to build the confidence to be able to feel that I was worthy of running this business and going out and having meetings with people about taking on their business. I think the advice I'd give to myself is that firstly, go to uni, and secondly, there's no reason for you to feel inferior. You're capable, and just remain confident and believe in yourself.
Wow, that's some pretty cool advice that you've got there, Nick. And do you know what? I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our younger audience, and probably with some of the older ones as well. But that belief infrastructure, and quite often I speak to a lot of business owners, and imposter syndrome is one that comes up quite a lot. So yeah, if only we was able to travel back in time, Nick?
Yeah, I'd be a Bitcoin millionaire.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So Nick, obviously, you're really passionate about what you do. You've been chatting to me prior to us jumping on the podcast, but what would you say what it is that really puts that fire in your belly? What is it that inspires you to do what you do each day, each week, each month, each year?
It's probably a combination of a lot of the stuff that I've spoken about. Firstly, I felt like I had to work harder than everybody else to prove people wrong. The main reason I came into recruitment in 2005 was because somebody suggested, I'd never even worked in an office before, and and I was at a bit of a loose end. I had a conversation with a manager of a recruitment business who said, "Look, speaking to you, I think you should try and get into this game. We're short of a consultant in our office. If I could set up a meeting with the area manager, would you be interested?" So I said yes. I had nothing to lose. I went to the interview and was told by the interviewer that I'd aced the interview, but because of my lack of experience, they couldn't offer me the position.
Yeah.
Which made absolutely no sense to me. So sorry, I haven't moved, so the lights have gone off. Apologies. So yeah, that left me a bit baffled as to why they wouldn't hire me if I had a great interview. So I just decided that, you know what, this doesn't look that hard. I'll do it myself.
Wow.
But sorry, I thought, what was the original question?
So the original question was, what inspires you? What is it that gives you that
yeah, I think, yeah, going back to that, I think a lot of it is to prove people wrong. I'm not your typical business owner, or I don't feel like your typical business owner. And to, like, I want to prove a lot to myself as well. Because although I feel like I'm over the imposter syndrome period, I do still feel like a bit of an outsider, not an outsider, this is probably a wrong word, but a bit of an underdog. So, and I'm mainly inspired, one, to prove people wrong, that although I came into this almost by default, hard work and determination will get me where I need to be. Plus, I've got staff now, and I want to see my staff do well. I've worked in environments where the staff aren't valued and aren't rewarded in the way that I believe that they deserve to be. Whereas my staff, I try to continually incentivize them. Incentivize them is probably the wrong word. I mean, they are incentivized. There are rewards for achieving above and beyond, but I feel like they feel valued. You probably have to ask them, maybe do a podcast with one of my consultants.
Yeah, I'd love that.
The idea is to make them feel valued. We work to suit them. I know that I'm not the most important person in my staff's life. They've got parents, they've got children, they've got brothers, they've got sisters. Like the idea of them coming to spend their time with me and help build my business should enable them to enjoy that time with their families without being concerned about the fact that they feel like they're working for, they're undervalued or underpaid.
Yeah, no, that's a great share, and I think that's so important for you as a business owner to be able to provide in an environment for other people to thrive within that environment. It's fantastic, and again, also when you've mentioned about, you know, proving not only to other people, but like you said, Nick, proving to yourself that you can do this, right, without a formal business studies education or going to university. You've been in business by virtue of what you've just told me for over 20 years. I mean, that in itself is testament, because there's a hell of a lot of people out there that have been to business studies and have gone to universities that haven't run businesses for over 20 years. So, you know, you are in the right place, just so you know, Nick, all right? Brilliant. So, I mean, just to wrap things up then, Nick, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people out there watching this or listening to this that are going to want to find out more about you and more about your business. So what's going to be the best way for them to get in touch, Nick?
You could obviously check out our website, which is www.driverprovideruk.com. We do have Instagram, Facebook. Don't follow me on TikTok because I'm a bit of an idiot.
I'm going to look you up on TikTok down here.
But yeah, we're on most social media platforms. And I don't know if I could give out my phone number here, but by all means, I mean, you'll find it on my website anyway. Give me a call.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's brilliant, Nick. So yeah, for those listening, it is Nick Campbell at Driver Provider UK. Definitely go and check out his TikToks. Please, please, please go and check out his TikToks. As soon as this is over, that's what I'm going to go and do. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Business Spotlight. Thank you so much.
No, the pleasure's been mine. Thank you very much, Mark.
Fantastic. And for those of you listening or for those of you watching, that is a wrap for this episode of the Business Spotlight. We'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.